Okay, Hilchas Bayer, we're going to have an exciting um, shir, I hope. See that this way. Okay, let's go. We're going to try to get through something Yanim we have not yet covered in Sif Aleph through Dalid, which is a lot. And let's get there. Be'ikr, we're going to try to focus on this lengthy Bir Halacha, the chilik between Siluk and Bayer. That's going to be one big topic I'd like to cover. And then we'll point out hopefully as much as we can, I'm not going to go back to Miyad because I think we basically covered Miyad. We spoke about the Chazon Ish, different ways of learning it. There's one topic I don't think we're going to get to today, which is peelers. Maybe at the end we'll get there. Right? That's where the Ilam just finished. Did he got there already or no? They didn't get there yet? He did. Oh, because Flam's going to give Sharon that tomorrow. You mean? Yeah. Okay. It wasn't me this time. Okay, let's move right along. So, we mentioned in the sugya of miyad, there's a clair. How do you view the miyad? Is it? I mean, I'll say the way that he brings it down over here. Mitzad the gavra or mitzad the chefsa? Who's the one that has to be miyad? Meaning, a normal case of miyad is I take out the item to use it for now. Givaldik. The question is, what if the situation dictates? Right? We mentioned this in passing. We mentioned it in passing. And the example is going to be a very classical example. You're going to the park with the kids and you want to peel fruit for the kids. You want to cut up fruit for the kids. And now the kid is not eating it right now, but you're leaving your house right now. So is this called miyad? Or you're going, the example that some Zalman gives is you're going to your parents and you want to bring clothing for the kid. And therefore you have to take, again, everything assuming it's in a tareves, you have to take it out of a tareves to take with you. Some Zalman says, it's us. Why is it us, sir? This is not called miyad. You're leaving your house right now. Okay, this thing's for you. What do you want? It's not called miyad. It's not called miyad. Now, in the case of the, peeling the fruit and cutting up the vegetables for the kid, without getting too emotional, but when you peel off the, what are you peeling for the kids? Apples, because the kid can't eat the peel. Right. So you peel off the peel for the kid, and then as you're walking out the door, the kid says, "Can I have an apple?" Right. So now it could be. I'm not going to say, mitam chinuch, or Davis will weigh in on that at another date. But it could be that if you're a normal parent that will allow the child to eat the apple early, could be then you don't have a shayla. Whereas if you're slightly about, no, it's not time for apples yet. Calm down. The apples are not here. I told you. Well, I'm sorry. Oh, so what was I saying? So it could be that if you're for sure not going to give it to the kid with all your other baggage and issues, Davis, you'll weigh in on the chinuch. I'm not getting involved. Then, wow, he's tired. He just had a kid. Please. His sarcasm levels are slightly off today. Please pardon him. Everything okay? Okay. So again, I agree there will come a point that it's an issue, but again, I'm just pointing out a lot of this is in the physicalities of it. Is that if the lamaisa is, then maybe you'll just end up handing the kid the bag of apples, and he'll eat the bag of apples as you walk to the park. And Nunu, he won't have his apple snack in an hour from now. And it could be that it's not a shayla. I'm just pointing out that when it comes to the clothing, I'd be like, oh, you want to put on your pajamas now at 3 in the afternoon as we walk to Zaidi for the Seder? Like, that's ridiculous. Which also, Agav, you have a chana issue there also. Just to keep in mind, if it's ever like a 2-day yantiv matzav and you're bringing clothing for tomorrow, how you did in the world of Achana is not so pashut. Yeah, okay. Enochanami. So, no, I didn't say it's for sure, yeah, for sure not. I'm pointing out that if the reality is that you might not be giving it, then you have to ask yourself a question. When I'm peeling these apples, what am I peeling it for? Peeling it for now. I might give it to him now. I might give it to him now. I might give it to him 2 hours. Yeah, that l'chayra in a case of appeal, I believe certainly one could be makel in case of edible peels. You want to know if you can be makel down a pselis gum or Correct. I think that would be an appropriate tziruf. But again, I'm just pointing out you just have to be honest. That was really my not a halachic point, my balabatish point. To be honest. Now happens to be 1 second. I'll give you. There's another tziruf. The other tziruf is the Shevet Levi. Shevet Levi comes along and he says it's mutter. He mamish talks about our case. Misha yoytze l'tayalim yeled v'zakuk avuroi le'achol ubegadim b'shas atiyol. He needs food and clothing. Mutter le'liver l'tzarech zeh oichel mepselis kegoin lakleif pri. Dezeh nechshav kebayir la'alter. Avaminu tzarech la'achles oichel miyad b'tchilas atiyol. Because he's learning that the fact that you need to do it for now, that's enough. So it's another tziruf. I say tziruf because l'chayr Shom Zalman is probably the pashas. Not that week away in. Right? Berkowitz says this tziruf. He says that l'makam atzayrech you could be seimich on this Rav. That's no. The other tziruf that it's called miyad because this is the time to do it. Again, there's two levels. Again. There's two levels. I'm sorry. Let's take it slow. Shaila number one is this called miyad? Rosh Zalman says no. Rav Osner says yes. That's shaila number one. I jumped. That's shaila number one. L'chayra, the pashtus is like Rosh Zalman, and that's what seemingly the poskim are taking on. L'chayra, it's not called miyad. So now I'm adding on two details. Detail number one is balabatish. Will you maybe give it to the kid now? That betzir of an edible peel, l'chayra, would be reason number one. Number two, right? Berkowitz comes along and he just weighs in on how you gauge this level of tziruf, and he says, he could be makel like Rav Osner, and he says toiv efshar not to do it, right? So because again, as we mentioned, maybe we'll get back to the kishka if we have time. Lamaisa, these are shadows of daraisis, often. So therefore, we can't take every tziruf and just indiscriminately run with it. But here, I think there's enough reasons. Yes. No. Again, one is a situation. That's first. That's number one. There, Rav Katzman's answering that in our case, we're not being makel on this alone. There's another reason. But two is over there. That's not a situational. It's not situational need. You don't need to do it now. You want to do it now. Okay, good. I was waiting for someone to ask that question. You know that is an Israeli question. Like, what's the big deal? Like, just pull out the whole kitchen in the park. Like that's normal. And no, it's true. And I think the answer is for those asking the question. Well, let's see better. For the healthy people asking the question, not healthy that they're eating fruit. Okay, for the healthy people asking the question, then enochanami. That's for sure, probably what should be done. But for the woman in the crowd, colloquial woman listening, that says, "You crazy? Want me to bring the pillar to the park?" And when husband suggests that, comes home from jail, like, "Oh, guess what? I learned in halacha today. I have a great idea. Like, the whole memory you mentioned one thing you do in the park. Great idea here. I brought you an extra peeler. Like, are you normal? Like, so if it's that level, that's l'chayr called not yeah. Absolutely not. Whatever the case you're bringing, whatever cutlery you're bringing with you. Okay, that is number one. Now, there's another level. That's that you want it. The next level, what if the item wants it? We mentioned the two together. The next level is, what if the item dictates that it needs to be done? That's the case of the fridge. That's the case of the freezer, etc., etc. Over here, Rosh Zalman is mekel. Here, Rosh Zalman is mekel. Here he's mekel. He brings some rayas. This is in Shmir Shabbos, the end of Hara Reish Chaf Beis, 222. He over there has different rayas that if the item needs it, then he's willing to be mekel. And this is probably also is a pretty normal case. In the freezer, you want to take, again, you have to figure out what's a terevis, which maybe we'll get to in a little bit. In the freezer, you're taking out dessert. You're taking out, you bought Rita's L'Kavod Shabbos, and the Rita's is sitting buried in the bottom of your freezer. So how are you going to get rid of all the muksa issues that you have all your raw food that's muksa? If it's muksa, that's one problem. Okay, so you use your back of your hand to push it away, and that's mutter, because l'tzerech mekaymai, you're getting to your item. Is that really mutter? If it's very good. It sounds good to mitzad. Is it really muksa? So if it's the highest level of muksa, No, so if it's the highest level muksa mamish, raw chicken, not meat, of course. Chicken, not meat, of course. Right? The only mamish, the only example. Not even soap. That goes in your coffee. Then you chayr could push it away with what?
Your nose.
With your elbow. With your elbow. With your elbow. Atzili yadav. Where are your atzili yadav? I don't know. What are atzili yadav? This is your atzili yadav? No, no. These are atzili yadav. Good. Yeah. So whether that's called Talmud Beguf, Talmud Menatzad, we'll get to definitely yesh makim lohakal if one needs, or you can just take something else. Take something else and move it with it, right? Okay, we're not learning muksa right now. Take another item and push it. So anyways, you push away the muksa items, and now you get to your ritas. 1 second, that was a terevis. It was all mixed together. You're taking it out of the terevis. No, I'm talking about a case, and we're going to get to it in a minute. My table today is not messy because I didn't prepare shir. Today the table is messy for examples. So don't be cheshid. Don't be cheshid. It's a mess. It's a mess in there. What I'm talking about a drawer freezer. Okay, so let me. So no. Say I know. We're dealing with a lot of yekis in this room and a lot of people with OCD. So we have to explain to them how other people's freezers look. Other people's freezers are not categorized, color coordinated, and they don't look like the stocking shelf in a store. Not everyone's freezer looks that way. Some people's freezers, it's like it's a whole mess in there. Obviously, because the kids made a mess in there, not because of anyone else. But so now you want to take the Ritas out. So, but why are you taking it out now? Because Ritas, if you take it out right away, it's not good. It needs 20 minutes to sit in order to serve. So is that going to be called miyad? Again, everyone understand the case? This is actually a normal case. I finally came with a normal case. I'm getting faces. Yeah, maskim. Okay, good. So in that case, is that going to be allowed? Rav Zalman says yes. He says this is called the item requires it, and therefore is going to be. Pickling is usher. Stam, it's a sifin shulchan aruch. You're not allowed to pickle on Shabbos. It's not pickling. Pickling is usher. Pickling is sifin shulchan aruch. Yes. No. That's something else. Again, putting it in the freezer. You have a different issue. Who says you're allowed to freeze things in Shabbos? Yes. What were you addressing? Correct. Rishon Zalman, he's two Rishon Zalmans. The first one is he's talking about for you. The other one he's talking about for the item. He makes this differentiation. Yes. Correct. I don't believe there's a place that he says not that way. Again, I think this is what I'm clarifying. Last time we mentioned that there is a shayla. Again, we mentioned there's a shayla if the item or the situation dictates. I'm going to the next level now. This is not what I'm talking about. Last time we just mentioned normal miyad is miyad. Now, what if the matzav requires that? I said, for example, a freezer, or this or that. And I said, for some Zalman talks about it. I don't know if I gave Kalar. If I did, I was wrong. This is the right ones. Now we're sitting with the names and faces in front of us. And that is Kalar. Good. That's the next level of miyad. Stam, in the world of miyad, we just have to be cognizant. We already spoke about the whole sudas included. There's a lot of like a shaylulach, like look in the paiskim. Like, what if you're having, is dessert included? What if you're having an einig after dessert? Is that included in miyad? You're having a shalom zachar after dessert. Is that included in miyad? Is it totally in benching? You're inviting over the bachram. They're coming over for dessert, but not really. It's an einig, but you're not going to bench because you're going to continue your suda. So can you, and you're serving, of course, ha'intik bachram. What are you serving them? Unfortunately, you're serving them fruit and vegetables, not candy and popcorn. So you're going to have to prepare all the vegetables and you have to prepare all the fruit beforehand. So is that called miyad? You did that before the suda, then you have a whole suda, and then you have the whole thing. Is that going to be called miyad? These are things that the paiskim all handle, and that's basically it. Do you have any other questions on miyad before we move weiter? Yes. So again, that's I think to this question. I don't believe when we say a situation requires it, it's that I am going somewhere that I can't do the buyer. it's not stam. I'm going to be busy and I can't do the bar. No, that's gufa called do change your schedule. This is you're going somewhere that can't be done. I think that's the chalik in the thing. But you're asking the kasha on the Shevet Levi, right? That is the kasha. You could just get rid of the home yad this way. That's what you're asking. Yeah, that's why it's not pashit. But I think it's very different to say, no, it's miyad at 9 o'clock in the morning, because then I'm going to go to shul, and then I'm going to stop at a kiddush, and then I'm going to go eat at a friend, and then I'm going to go schmooze with a friend, and then I'm going to go take a nap by my parents, then I'm going to come home for shal shudis at 6 p.m. So 9 o'clock in the morning is called miyad for 6 p.m. because I'm not going to be home until then. That I think is ridiculous. He does not talking about that. So I'm at a case where you're going somewhere and it doesn't allow. Now, what happens if you mess up? What happens if you mess up? There's a Shartzian, which you all saw. What happens if you did Bayer and then you change your mind? Right? You all saw the Shartzian. What's the lashon of the Shartzian? What? Which word? Which word? All the traumas. No. No. So Shartzian says in Bir Avleis Suda Sivkatan Hey, Avacha Nichla Azul the Suda Acheres, After Chiv Chatas In Bazed Kadma Maisa LeMachshava, Kol Makam Loy Orech LeMeved Hachi. Shalchayra means what? Inappropriate. V'tzarech Raya Ledvarav. And then he says you need a raya for his words. Whose words? The Pri Megadim. So sounds like the Mishnah Brura holds what? Really? I was going to say that. I think Mishnah Brura says it's Klat Kasha. No, the Shartzian says V'sarch Raya L'Dvarav. Yeah. Pri Megadim comes along and says, come on, L'arech L'Meverachi. Zok Chavetz Chaim. Pri Megadim, where do you come from? No, that's not how you learned it?
Bring you down to 100.
Yeah, correct, 100%. Saying don't say that way. Shem Zalman, in different Likut Svarim is quoted as saying it's Mekel for the Svara. If you think about it, it's a shikol pel on the Pri Megadim. Because how do you view? Well, what's the whole Varna Miyad? It's all in machshava, right? It's one of those things. Who knows? God knows, right? So it's not like a game like, oh, whoops, I'm not eating it now. No, it means you made a salad. Right? Let's go to normal case. You made a salad for the Shabbos Day Suda. And then you go sit down and you realize you're not hungry. You go sit down and you realize you don't have, you have too much food. So you don't want to serve it. So you're going to tell me now that limafreya, I did bayer because I don't end up serving it. That's what the Pri Megadim says.
So, did he say it's with the harama? Did he say that?
I understand what I don't know. So don't let it don't let it lead to Arama. I don't really know why. I'm saying we're just like
You could argue the star, but Pri Megadim themselves.
no. Pri Megadim says Lo Erech L'Meverachi. So what's the Mishnah Brura's problem with that? Is that like what did he do wrong? That's l'chayra, which is what Rav Shlomo and Rav Yashiv all want to point out that it all has to do with what you did, and l'chayra it's that's what Moshe Sternbuch explains like you just said, by the way. Sam, if you want to know if you learned the Pri Megadim right, he says the shayrish achshash ta Pri Megadim shema im nater loi. Maybe if we say it's mutter ye'eram tamid shebayir l'suda smucha v'inich l'shal achraha. You're going to start doing this. You're going to start saying, oh, it's for lunch. Oh, whoops, it's for this. So that is what he's saying. But again, even to say unless maybe we're giving too much credence to lo arech lemevad hachi, where you feel like we're getting emotionally disturbed, feeling like the Pri Megadim is yelling at us, and maybe he's not really yelling at us. All he's saying is like, it's not the greatest thing to do. Why not? Because you get messed up. Did you do anything wrong? No, you're still Givaldic. You follow Allah 100%. Just don't get into the habit. Maybe we're getting a little bit too. Yeah, what's your question? Sorry? What?
If you're not close to the Rama, you can't have that.
No, but that's good. No, but that's what he's pointing out. No, you're right. If you know it's a shayla, then you won't. If you don't know it's a shayla, you definitely can hear someone that when you tell them, okay, you can prepare for the Suda, as long as it's for the Suda, and if let's say someone would end up a shir, and if you don't end up using it at the Suda, it's okay, right? So a listener could hear, okay, so I have to prepare for the Suda, and if I don't use it, it's okay, and they do that and do that and do that, and eventually they just get into the habit, right? You can hear how it could happen. Yeah. I hear. That's in Lord Melachi. Be cognizant. Be cognizant. Good. When it comes to toys, Bayer and toys, again, there's a lot of hack. I don't really know what's going on over here. I got a headache trying to figure this out. Maybe I just didn't understand the Hebrew, or Davis, you probably could help me. No, that I don't have. No, before there, I actually do. I can find it afterwards. The Rubik's cube and toys with moving pieces. Sounds like he broke the Rubik's cube and tried to put it back together. But yeah, that's what he even mentions that. I don't know. I got a headache trying to figure out what he's talking about. It becomes a different game. But wait, I just want to point out a very big mistake, and they teach this to kids very wrong. And they tell kids that when you're playing, you can't do Bayer. So now kids come home and say, we can't play Monopoly. Why not? Because we open the game and it's a mess. And now we can't play because we can't sort out all the money to start the game. You got to put all the money into places. That's the most ridiculous thing in the world, of course, right? Why? Because that's called miyad. Sorting it out to play is miyad. What you can't do is what the kids don't want to do. You can't clean up. That's what you can't do. When you clean up, the OCD people, the way they clean up, and I'm making fun of them, it's a real, we daven for them, is that you put everything back in the compartments and then you put it away. That you can't do. That's called Bayer for Lachar Zman. That's
on a Tuesday.
That's that we're not going to get involved in. Yeah. Fine. So good. Hey, mom, you should keep your money separate. Okay. So he set himself up. He set himself up. So no. A question is coming in. We won't say the name on camera. Question is coming in that obviously you're saying you can't clean, but I don't understand. When you look at the game, everyone's sitting there, and everyone's money is laid out in piles. The same people that they have like wallets with 16 compartments. The hundreds go in one compartment, the 50s. Each thing has its own compartment. So then what's the Bayer? You just take the hundreds and you put them in the hundreds. You take them. That is definitely true. That is definitely true, which we're going to get to when it comes to silverware in a few moments, which we've spoken about here in the past. Is that? This is called miyun. This is called the miyun, sorting. Sorting is a new type of Bayer. Oichel me'oichel. Oichel me'oichel. Why is that a chiddush? This is the Bir Halacha. Bir Halacha, the Masal Hayu says, "Hine pri megadim mistapik den bir min echa mechaver v'deitel nech shneim al achar zman. Sheich was a bir the hey oichel ve'pseil tzayin sham. When he said in your pashim lashon Rambam, this really the bir mashal bir min echa mechaver v'yidahu kol min b'fnei yatz is etzem amalacha. El dim deitel echel teikav hu biyad over derech malach meichel. Mekin kavel chamber v'adavar meichel shenichem min echel al mekayim sheich. Yeah. So this is what the Bir Halacha says. That of course, the whole mahos of the malacha is separating and sorting. Yeah, so if you're doing it, and this is the whole chiddush of that which Masha Roitz Alech Shav is called the Eichel, the other one's called the Pseilas. That's the whole chiddush. Now, if I don't want either one, but I'm doing it for Lachar Zman, that is the Bir Halacha. That's Bir Halacha. He says, Yimayla Tzad, based on the Rambam, that maybe it would be okay. And that's, we mentioned last time that there is Zepis and Ar Sameach about that, but we said that that's not even a tzir if the Pashtus is, and Bir Halacha is violently machmir. That's what Rafal said. Rafal came along and the Abiyah Omer wanted to say that the reason why you're allowed to sort silverware, one of his svaras, one of his sirufim were he didn't even want it to be a tziruf. That's what Rafal was screaming about. He didn't even want it to be a tziruf because he said, how could it be a tziruf? It's not la'alacha. Okay, it's an arsameach. That's what you're asking. How can you say that? Okay, so yeah, miyan, we're clear on miyan. Are we clear on miyan? Yes. Okay. Weiter. There is. Everyone can look at this afterwards. There's a Sefer Ara Shabbos. What is that? No clue. He quotes from Chaim Pinchas Scheinberg that he says it sounds like he's sort of being makel on this thing called miyan. I don't really know what he's talking about, so I have no clue what he's talking about. So we'll dial him. What? Miyan mem yud vav endem nun. Mem yud vav endem nun. Now. So let's utilize this moment to talk about the Taz. I think this is the appropriate place to talk about the Taz. Yeah, which is awesome. That's the Pashas. Now, let's utilize the moment to talk about cutlery. I think this is the appropriate place to talk about cutlery. First of all, so again, what's our classical case of Miyan? What's the case we were just talking about? We're talking about monopoly money. So I'm sorry, I was in the middle of pointing out that when it comes to bayrer, that if you're separating to play, that's called miyad. That's called miyad, and that's going to be mutter. It's going to be mutter. In a similar fashion, if you try to clean up on Shabbos the toys, it's a mess. Kiyadua. And how do you clean it up? Everything's all over the place. So maybe we'll get there in a moment. But if, let's say, and I'm not saying you should trick your children, but let's say you want to have a child say, hey, you want to play with all the magnet tiles? Oh, so exciting. So then you want to separate all the magnet tiles from all the hundreds of other toys on the floor to give the kid to play with them. It's perfectly fine because he's playing with them. And if you want to say, oh, yeah, of course, for him, yeah, you could do. If you want to say it's that you're right. That is, there's a marmakum on that. If you could do it for someone else, the answer is yes. Is it Shem Mishnah? Mishnah says it straight up. Thank you, thank you. Can you read it out loud, please? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. That is the bayer to play. Oh, so then you could give another kid one. You want to give the kid the menchies. Hey, you want to play with the menchies? So you could take out all the menchies and give it to the kid. It just has to be real. Just has to be real. If it's real, then it works. So if you're looking for the hack, how to clean up, if you need to clean up, so the easy way is you just take all the toys, put them in one box, and deal with it at the shop. So no one wants to do that, obviously. So therefore, what do you want to do? You want to. So you could figure out a way. You be inventive, create a game for a kid to play menchies and play with menchies and the kid. Beautiful. What a wonderful thing to play with your children on Shabbos. Okay, next. So now we get to cutlery. We get to cutlery, and we have a mess. What do we do with it? So first of all, you also the Gemara in Shabbos in Rashi. Rashi, the Gemara in Shabbos is Shadaka Mayu Kalkala Deperi. Rashi says that when you throw out all the stuff, it separates on its own, me'elav, and therefore it's mutter. Ramesha, which you all saw in those small chuvas, they asked Ramesha, are you allowed to throw the kapot mazligot, the spoons and the forks, on Shabbos and they separate on their own? Ramesha says it's an Eitzah Taiva. It's an Eitzah Taiva. I always knew this. Maramakim is Rav Elyashiv. Rav Elyashiv's famous blot shear, when he was reading the Gemara, they asked him, and he says, Shteit mefurash azoi. That was his answer. They quoted here very nicely from the shear, meaning it's a Rashi. Avada, it's going to be mutter, and that's one eitzah, and that's a good eitzah, by the way. People get very emotional, like throw your silver. And no one said you have to be crazy, but if I have a pile, right? Not one, not two, not three, because then maybe it's not a terevis. I have 10 items, yeah. So I could take them, I could just scatter them out. And now they're all separated, and now it's not a problem. It's not. It doesn't have to be. You take 100 pieces, you throw them all over the whole house, and no. We're going to get to call about the other in a minute, and we'll say Rishon Zalman's Geder, Rishon Zalman's clarification of the mistake everyone makes, we'll get to in a moment. But one eitzah is that you take them, lishtayach, you throw them, and that is going to work. Now, happens to be there are some Heintige Gedalim that come along, and the Shevet Levi and the Synkrelitz. There they get very bothered, and Rav Gelber in the Archa Shabbos gets very involved in this. That what does the word l'shtoyach mean? What does the word l'shtoyach mean? Meaning, the way we just described it was I take the whole pile and I throw it. That's one way of doing it. That's what the Gemara says, right? Shada kamayu kalkala deperi. You throw out the whole thing. So someone asked, why can't if I do it slower, does that work? If I take the whole pile and I go to the table and I slowly drop them throughout the whole table, is that the same thing? I'm just slowing down the process, right? If I take my basket of fruit and I throw it out, so if I put the camera on slow-mo, you'll see each item falling in its place. So why can't I do that? I'll take the whole basket and I'll just drop it along the floor, and that should be fine. So there are the Shevet Levi and Niskrelitz comes along, and they weren't happy with this. And Rafalk, this is one of the things that we asked him when he sat with us. What's the Geder? And he basically said that if you're going to drop them one by one, then you didn't gain anything. You're doing better. If it has to be it has to happen me'elav on its own. That's the lashon. Okay, so now the question is, as Rabbi Katzman asked so eloquently, what happened to the Taz? What happened to the Taz that says, Kol haba liyadai is going to be mutter? And therefore, there are those who mistakenly want to learn the Taz, that the way and what the Taz means is close your eyes, pick up an item, and do what you want with it. Because that's not called Bayrer. That's how they want to learn the words of the Taz. Let's actually do this, right? Let's read the Taz. Sifkat and what? Gimel? Sifkat and Gimel. Taz. Sorry. This is all part of the show for the next part of Shir, to have the desk extremely messy. The Taz. Oh no, it's a long one. I did not look at this beforehand. Thank you. I appreciate it. I don't appreciate it. If you could give me a little more help, that'd be better. Where is it? Someone? Where? Just read the words. Just read it. Just read it. Just read. Just read.
It's right at the end.
If someone could read, it would really help me. Just read the words.
The last 20 words.
If you look in Gimel, it's not going to work. Okay. Yeah. So some want to say, what does this mean? What this means is, for example, now we could utilize our desk as an example. We have on our desk over here. Let's just get this klar. No, let's we can get ourselves confused. Let's take one thing at a time. Why can't I go? I have my pile of cutlery, so I just pick up one. Oh, it's a fork. Put in the fork thing. Oh, it's a knife. Put in the knife thing. Oh, it's a spoon. Put in the spoon things. Isn't that what the Taz is being makel on? So says Hashem Zalman, absolutely not. That's completely ridiculous. Says Hashem Zalman Arbach, she'ein tzad heter bedavar ze klal. A little bit violent. In the Taz. Rafalk in Machzalio Chelik Aleph in the end of Siman 49, Memtes, he's the one that explains this most eloquently. I think there is a ha'ara in. Yeah, we're going to get there. The Shmir Shabbos in ha'ara Reish Lamed Gimel, thank you. And ha'ara Reish Lamed Gimel speaks about it as well. And they say that's not what the Taz means. What does yes the Taz mean? So the Taz, why can't the Taz mean this? Who wants to say? Why can't this be what the Taz means?
Because it's clear.
Thank you. Anyone else? Why can't this be what the Taz means? That's just because it's better. That is, there's nothing else to say. What? Because that's what you're doing. That's the reason. And that's the Nikuda, and that's what the Taz is coming lafuke. If that's not what you're doing, I'll explain, then it's mutter. The way Rosh Zalman explains it, the Rafalke explains it, is that kol habali yadai, for a purpose, then zeinoi einoi nichlal beira. But if the kol habali yadai is for beirer, then it's not kol habali yadai. I'll say that in English in 1 second. Zok Rav Yashiv, the way that you do it is, if your whole maisa is a maisa breira, you punctuate it in a haphazard manner that doesn't negate the maisa breira that you did. But if you didn't do a maisa breira, but rather what did he do? He did a maisa something else, called habali yadei for not beirer, then you can do what you want with it. Meaning, Zok Rav Falk, as he explains these words of Rosh Zalman, as he explains the words of the Taz, that if I have my pile of dirty cutlery, and I pick up the knife indiscriminately. Why did I pick up the knife? To wash it. I didn't pick it up to do bayrer. Kol habali yadei came to your hand for a purpose, for a non-bayrer purpose. If it came to your hand for such, now do whatever you want with it. But if it came to your hand for a bayrer purpose, then how can you say that's einay klal loy derech breira? That is derech breira. You're just doing it in an inefficient manner. Bayrer in an inefficient manner cannot be called not Bayrer, and therefore, that's how they learn Pshat in the Taz. L'chayra, it's Pashit. Yes, I'm listening. Who wants to argue? It's okay.
Meaning, is by definition
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, whatever. The difficulty, I understand what everyone's difficulty here is that how do you read it into the words of the Taz? I understand the difficulty is how you read into words of the Taz. Oh,
As a joke, stick around the
no, 100% not. That's also. It's also. So if you, wait. So the answer is, this is the classical example that if you know what you're doing, you avoid the problem. If I have all my dirty cutlery, so and let's just be honest, you're washing them, right? So how did the dirty cutlery in the sink go to the pile of mixed up cutlery on the counter? How did that happen? It happened by me picking one up indiscriminately, washing it, and then recreating the tareves.
So that's not one. Yeah, that's not smart to do.
That's also, but I'm saying, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. I don't know what the cash is. I know your cash is. What cash is? First of all, Stam, I mean, there's not even a Mishnah Berurah that talks about this, but I don't even know what your question is. Yeah, what's your question? The case I just spoke about. All your cutlery is dirty in the sink. That who said that this is like a shame heter that we need it's a key that we need to find the door to open. The het no. What do you mean? The Taz is explaining to you that even though at the end of the day things were nivrar, things were separated, you were not over bayr. That is the chiddush. The same way, Pezer. 1 second. What's the chiddush about Pezer? What's the chiddush about Pezer? You didn't do anything. That haguf was the chiddush. That even though your end result was such, is that I don't know if it has to be more of a chiddush than that. I don't know why the Taz has to be saying more than that. I don't know.
It's saving you from the after's mouth. So give me the case. That's like that. We don't. That's what he even said. So it would. It's not like.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't understand why can't you be a much simpler case where we're saying, let's say your dishwasher's clean, and you want to set your table for whatever the next day. To pull out the giant cutlery guy, you're not trying to go through all the spoons. You're trying to set your table.
That's the same thing. It's the same thing. That's called doing bayr. Setting your table is called doing bayr. That's the same thing.
The goal is not to separate the spoons from the knives and forks. You need to set your table. You're picking out one piece that happens to be a spoon. There's no mice to break.
Again, let me be clear. I agree with your question. I'm not arguing with your question. I agree with your question, and I agree with your assessment of the Taz. That what he's saying. I am telling you over how the Gedolim learned this Taz. Rav Shlomo Zalman, Rav Nissim Karelitz, Rav Falk. This is how they learned the Taz. La'afuke. I do not know of anyone. I'm actually looking to see. Chamar, but that's not. This is only even. That's actually a good raya. Even in Chacham Avadia's world, he doesn't just say Taz and Kol Tov. Chacham Avadia has 3 tzirufim, and this is one of the 3. So it is. And he learns this case of silverware. He talks about this case of silverware, and he says 3 tzirufim to be mekel. To just sort them and do whatever you want with them. Tziruf number 1, I don't know the order. Rafal, look at Rafal, he quotes the whole thing. Chelik Aleph Memtes, in Marsilio, he quotes the Yabiyim. I have it here on the table somewhere. But he says Taz. He says Ar Sameach. Ar Sameach is that there's one from another. There's no min from min is not Bayer. And then he says Ar Chashulchan. Yeah. Bayer B'Kelim, meaning one from another is not meaning not items. And then he says And then he says, I think the third he says Aruch HaShulchan. Think. Which is a mistake if you learn Aruch HaShulchan properly, which is that one I don't even understand what he said. I don't understand what he says. Yeah. No, it's just a mistake because we're not if I'm talking about a pile of cutlery of 100 forks, knives, and spoons, and now the Aruch HaShulchan is not talking to that case. No, he just isn't. Well, what is this? Is this a cow? No, it's a sefer. Why? Because it is. I don't understand the questions. No, he's not. He's not. He's not saying it's a mistake. You have to read the words carefully. He's not. He's not bechlal. It's. I have no clue. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if the Aruch find this tshuva. I don't know. I don't know. I'm repeating to what Machzeh says. And those are the three. Did I get the three right? Those are three. No. Machzeh quotes all three, and then he goes one by one. Just look at Machzeh. It's very simple. He says A, B, C, and D, and then he starts screaming against each and every one when they all make no sense.
It starts with Ar Sameach.
Yeah.
It starts with number 2, Oichel
Echel. No, it's Arson. So does it say Aruch HaShulchan? Yeah. It doesn't say Aruch HaShulchan there. I'm wrong. He doesn't say Tas. I misquoted the whole thing. Okay, I'm happy you looked at it. The first paragraph he says it. First paragraph he calls it B'Yah and he says it's to be true from. Okay, we'll look at it. Anyways, I hear everyone's kashas. He quotes Tas. Does he quote Aruch HaShulchan or no? He quotes Aruch HaShulchan or no? Okay, weiter. I understand all your questions. That's how the Gedalim learns up the Taz. Medaf Gain, weiter. Let's go. I'm not like shutting down because I don't have an answer. That's what they say. You're asking a good kasha. They say you're learning the Taz wrong. It's a little bit of a stalemate over here how to learn the Taz. Is there a Chacham Avadi that uses this? Yes. Does there have a Fal come along and scream? Yes. Is there a Makam Lehakel? I don't think so. Why? Because that's what the Gedalim say. We're not Sephardi, which I tell you. I don't really have anything else to add to the matter, and therefore let's move on. But I agree with your questions. I'm really not just moving on. I just don't really have anything else to add on the topic. Okay, it's getting late. Let's move on. Let's move on. Okay, Siluk. I think this is the last part of this year. It's the last part of this year. Let's just mention let's Siluk's going to get more fights. So before we get to Siluk, let's just mention something nice. The Graz in the Piskei Siddur. This Graz is two parts of they print in the back. Put in the back, right? The Graz wrote on Shulchan Aruch Harav, and then he has psukim in the back of a siddur, and there very often they quote just the psukim. So Stam is a nice heter when you're learning Bairer, which is, I'm just going to give you the Marmak from the Taz. It's L'chayer Pashit, which is that if you, from the Graz, is that if you don't take it out of the Tareves, you didn't do anything. For example, if I have a massive bowl of salad, and I don't like, and there's is a rock that fell in it. Okay, a pebble in my salad. If I take out that pebble, I was over Bairer, right? Because that's called Pseis Meichel. What if I take the pebble, I just push it to the side? The answer is, you didn't do anything. Why didn't you do anything? Because it's still in the Tareves. I don't know what you just said. And I just don't get the terminology. Say it again. Okay. Okay, so what's the question? No clue anyone would say that. No clue. No, unless maybe it's in the Kli Rishon. That could be a different reason. That's how it's a Hagasa. Sog to Heilige Graz, Nafel Zvuv, Sharp Silas, Lekoisa Kaira, Mutter Linafeach, Love Lahakrive, Ledefen Akais. In case you're nervous that it's just for the Chassidim, the Rav Shimon Eider quotes in his Sefer, the Chachani quotes it in Nahil Meshulash, Shvis Shabbos says the same thing, the Silik Stadon Lomasinim is a Isser, like the Graz says. I don't know why anyone would say it's a problem. It sounds like a bizarre thing to say. I have no clue why anyone would say that. No. I know you're trying to be nice, but yes. Anyway, this is a big hatter. This is a very, very big hatter, and this is really a big eitz also. Now, I'll just have to point something out because you hear this hatter, you take it to the next level, and it's a chatas, which means I just said you push it to the side, and it's still in the tarevis. That doesn't mean, sometimes your plate has like a lip around it. So you put it on the lip, and then you push it onto the napkin, and then you push it into the garbage. And like, no, it's still in Terevis. No, it's in the garbage. It doesn't work. So the heter of the graz is if you push it within the Terevis. Okay, that was a nice interlude. And finally, I'm going to read you some words from Rav David Feinstein, which is the $1 million question of Eichel with Pseles v'chulu, and how you learn the Bir Halacha when he talks about sucking off the bones, right? Which is really was the shmuz from yet. Where is the graz? It's in the back of the sefer. It's called Piskei HaSiddur. The back of the sefer, he has something called Piskei HaSiddur, which is his psakim, and it goes by Shabbos. Hilchos Rabasi Shabbat. It's just like a list. There's no official whatever. So the lashon of Bir Halacha, I just want to read you a lashon of Rav David Feinstein. He says, when he talks about sucking the bones to get off the juice, which Bir Halacha is like parav about, right? Parav, he's not so happy, he's not so also. He says, so Rav David writes, a Talmud of his writes in V'dibar Tamam, v'yesh lodin al zeh, v'mahavi atikin b'zeh demoitzitz b'peh mikoydem, the seif kol seif, hu misalik ha'pseiles me'eichel, tzarech laimar, meaning he asks a kasha. I take the bone out of the fish, and then what do? I suck off the bone to suck off the fish yum, and then I throw out the bone. So what's this, a game? What's this, a game? So he says, now I understand the $1 million question is how far to take this, and how much juice has to be on the bone, or how much meat has to be on the fat. I understand, but he's just giving us a musig, which is that if you take up pselis and there's eichel and you're eating the eichel, then you didn't do anything. That's all. I'm going to end with the Bir Halacha, and the Bir Halacha of Siluk. I this morning listened to Mordek Ashirim. He's got a geshmak to listen to. Simcha Bunim Kohn, very geshmak. And he speaks about this heter of Siluk. I have a problem. I'll just share with you my problem. I never fully understood this heter of Siluk. And I'm going to repeat what he said, how he was Mekel. No, this is all part of the showing that this is a terevis. We're going to get to in a minute. So the Mishnah Berurah, at the end of Sivkot and Vav, talks about Siluk. Siluk means removing the top item. And the Bir Halacha is Divrei Masal Lechol Miyad says the same. So Mishnah Berurah's words are Ve'efsh, Dim Tuluyim, and again, the case is Tesvav, I'm sorry. Sivkot Tesvav. Then Ve'efsh, Dim Tuluyim Kama Begadim Alakaisel. Umechapis Acher Big Doi. Shirtz Axel Lavshe. So what's going on? You have, sounds like, one long hook, and you have a ton of coats hung on that hook, and your coat's at the bottom. Is that not what the case sounds like? Is that how you all learned the case over here? Tuliyim kama begadim alakaisel umachapes achar big doi shirtz achshav lolavshe. That's the case, right? Yes? No? Because then you don't have to remove the other ones to get to yours. Because what's his case? You have to take off the other ones to get to your coat. You know, his words are, Tuluyim kama begadim, and you're searching after your coat you want now. You have to do what? L'salik mitchila kol shara begadim. So another way of saying this, without getting the hook, I understand, it gets a little hard to figure out. You have a pile of coats. You went to the Shalom Zacher, and they had the classical coat rack that holds 5 coats. No one knows why, because they know there's going to be 30 coats. So never had that couch, huh? No, there's no room. Oh, just put it on the couch. Just put it on the couch. Oh, I'm sorry. What? When it's raining. Anyways, so you put the coat on the couch, right? Okay. So now you come to get your coat at the Shalom Zacher, and what's going on? You have a pile of coats to Shemayim. You have to get to your coat. Your coat's on the bottom. So what do you have to do? You got to take off all the other coats to get to your coat. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ve'efsher lo yavi b'chlal bayer. Ve'efsher. It's not so comforting. V'chein emunachim b'kair kama minim yachad ze al zeh. V'min shortz lechom munach lemata. U'mesalik ilu shem nichlam mal kedei shuch lagia lamin shel mata v'litloi loi havi b'chal bayr. So v'chein loi havi b'chal bayr. So this is part of the efsher. So the efsher of the Mishnah Brura is a pile of coats or a pile of items is not bayr. Ayin the bir halacha. So when you're ma'ayin the bir halacha to maskal lechol, if those who have Maitzur Sadaf, which is no one, no, a lot of you, good, is on the wide lines, on the fourth wide line. So they're not all in their own distinct places, and therefore there is bayrer mikomakim nira. Dein lachmer bazeh rak ein lachmir rak shemisalkim milmalav v'det b'rasik deil nich lachar zman. That's where you should be machmir, because then it's machal breira. But aval me'ina choshev by this klal rak sheritz l'asir k'dei lagilam min shel matamen is that loy b'chal bayrer klal. Not efsher. Straight up mutter. So what's the chilik? I'm in the fourth very wide line. Oh, in that one I don't know. What's the chilik? What's the chilik? No? Anyone else had? Anyone else had this question? That what? That what? That what? Good. So what does that mean? What's the chilik? So the chilik, the Rafalk, and other Gedalim make, and that's what I heard this morning from Simcha Bunim Kohn, is as follows. And Rafalk, in his perfect manner, makes that we have two levels over here, and that's really the answer. You have a number of large items that lie together in a disorganized manner, and then you have a pile of thick, large, distinct items. So I'll tell you the way the Rav Simcha Bunim explained it. I watched it on the camera, so this is what he said. If you have, for example, pardon me for a moment. I don't want to close these. I'm using these. If you have, for example, yeah, these are good. If you have a stack, I'll say, large, distinct items, okay? Am I allowed to take these and put them all away? That's the Bir Halacha's Shaila. That's where he's coming from the Shuas Yaakov. And the Shuas Yaakov asks, is this a Blacha Shein Tzrich Legufa? Shuas Yaakov answers that no. Why? Because you're metaking the Oichel. But if you have one item on top of the next, then what should you not do? Take off the top one for later. What could you, yes, do? You could access the bottom one for later. That's his words. Before I go next steps, everyone agree with the words, the way I just typed the Bir Halacha? I'm getting faces. No. He says, Mikol Makom near de'ein lahachar b'zeh rak k'shemisalkum milmalav v'deitim b'raskil l'nech lachar zman. So good. So what should you not do? Take the top one for later. That you cannot do. Correct? Yes? Yeah. Good. To us, emu b'chal be'era nuchlam v'demikim lacha v'gam lacha zich legufa kim d'rashaza mechinoi lachar kach. Lo yishnoi mechinoi yom zeh o yom achar. Avol you don't care about this at all. Why are you rak? What are you doing? You're removing it. You're just doing it to access the guy underneath. What does that mean? It's not bayar klal. You can do it for lachar zman. Why? Because it's not bayar.
Even if the same
Of course. That's the contrast. That's the two cases. It's the same case.
Sure, I don't
That's the case.
the safer on top, if it's for that you can't separate.
Right. But if I want this for Lachar Zman, I could take this off. Why?
Now could you pick that one up?
What was I saying? Why? What was that before? What was that? Let me. I'm gonna. I'm gonna read it in English. I'm reading in English. The upper items may be removed. This is a pile of large, distinct items. When thick, large, distinct items lie on top of each other, an orderly pile, the identity of each item is not obscured by the items that lie on top of it. It would seem, therefore, that there is no Isra Bayer to select one of the items, such a pile, even for a later time, since distinct large items in a pile are not considered mixed together. So what's the problem? I have these things over here. This is called a Bayer? No. So before we scream, let's listen to Rafalk. Let's listen to Rafalk. I'm so far, I didn't say anything. I have a pile of large distinct items. He says, really, there should be no problem at all. However, some place can write that although the items in such a pile are not considered mixed, they do not obscure each other. Nevertheless, it is possible that they still are such a form Bayer Midrabanon. They maintain that since the upper items block the lower items, and it's often difficult to take out a large distinct item that is lying in a pile of similar items, so it is subject to the rules of Bayer. One should therefore not sort out such a pile for later use, because that's Bayer Midrabanon. Similarly, one should not select a single item for the middle unless it is used immediately. For example, if one has an orderly pile of large Svarim, one should not select a sefer from it for later use, although each sefer has its name clearly marked in the spine, since the upper Svarim block the lower Svarim and make it difficult to reach them. Similarly, one should not sort out such a pile of Svarim and put each one back in its place of bookshelf for later use. To do so is Bayer Midrabanan. Bir Halacha, Shin Yutas, Gimel Dimar Lechel Miyad. Next. But the upper items can be removed, so lighter items can be used. The Paiskim write, however, that even though such a pile is subject to halachas of Bayer as explained above, there is one exceptional leniency which applies to such a pile. That is, one may take off the upper items in order to reach a lower one, and to do so is not considered a forbidden act of Pseilus or Meichel. And now,
Put it away on the shelf.
and now, I'm just going to keep on reading. He explains. I'll read a little bit faster. This is the Lumdus. In order to understand, not the Lumdus is the problem. In order to understand the reasoning behind this leniency, it must be explained that when there's an absolute mixture, the pselis obscures the oichel, and the removal of pselis is therefore mlacha tzrich legufa. This should all sound very familiar. He's explaining the Shivas Yaakov in the Ber Halacha. Positive act to approve it to the oichel, since the oichel thereby comes fit and ready to be used, which is the very purpose of selection was done in the Mishkan. However, in the case of an orderly pile of large distinct items, the removal of pselis to reach the oichel is mlacha she'enai tzrich legufa, an indirect improvement to the oichel, as the removal of the pselis does not positively improve the oichel, but is a simple act of removal whereby one can reach the oichel. When I take this off to get this, I'm not doing anything, I'm just removing it. Since a pile of large distinct items at most a questionable form of Bayer Midrabanan, one may be lenient and to do such an act of removal that is no more than mlacha she'eina tzrich legufa, which is not a mitzvah min HaTorah, but an Isser Rabban. Therefore, if one has a large pile of large distinct svarim lying on top of each other, one may remove the upper svarim either altogether or one after another in order to obtain access to the sefer below. And he quotes in 124, Kimvur in the Ber Halacha, Tivur Masel Lechem Miyad. Umutter lahasir chafetzim el yonim af lishtam shechlenim la'achar zman Kimvur Ber Halacha sham. Bal karchach mashakos mishbur segvet zvav sheroitza atel lavshay. He says lavdafka. So that's how he's. Let's get there in a moment. I think there's another way of answering it. That's how he. Okay. So says, and now I'm just going to theorize with the way of Simcha Buddha explains it so eloquently. So if it's like this, when I remove these two to get to the Shulchan Aruch underneath, this is not called an act of Bayer Bechlal. Because it was a Tarayvis Midrabanan. If it wasn't a Tarayvis, then I should be able to put everything away. That I can't do. Because it's items that somewhat, this is the Ber Halacha, that it blocks the item underneath and it's somewhat distinct and somewhat not, and it's a little bit confusing and we don't know what to do. Abidavka took 4, by the way. I think there's a point that we have to agree. Maybe 5. I don't know. I don't want to. It might even have to be a Zay. It might even have to be 5 items. I don't know. It comes a point that it just, Right. That's what he's saying. That's what it should be. Then the Biur Halacha continues, but it's by our Midrabanan. That's the Biur Halacha continues. Biur Halacha himself says something's also. The Biur Halacha himself says, really, this, again, Biur Halacha says, really, this shouldn't be Bayar B'chlal. But Zakti Biur Halacha, you can't put them all away. Why not? Because he's learning it's Bayar Midrabanan. But if you just want to take off the top guys to access the guys underneath, that would be okay. Now, Simple.
Not being able to see what's beneath it. It doesn't say that. It's just you know that it's there. So I don't know if he's harping so much on it's distinct and you're able to notice before.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You're talking about a pile of coats.
So what do you want to say?
You don't see your coat from before.
What do you want to say? What do you want to say?
It's all been predicated on the fact that you knew already, you know exactly where it is before, and you just were moving to get to it. In other words, like you could see it before. He's harping a lot on that. You can see it before, you know where it is, you know exactly where it is. If you have 15 coats sitting on a couch on the shelf, you can see your coat before. You know it's somewhere in there. It might be 3 coats deep, it might be 10 coats.
Again, so
No,
It's
I'm
not
saying.
oh, very good. That's I think the teretz is. That's I think the teretz is. I think this is Archa Shabbos' Torah. If you want to see, I think this is his Torah to end in Siman Dalid. I think this is his Torah. Is that the chilik is like you just said. That's what we're about to get to. Is that why in one is it a ve'efsher and one is he being makel? It's a ve'efsher because when you have a pile of coats, it's not this case. It's not this case at all. Pile of coats is more similar to this case. This is my table. This is a much bigger problem because this is a mess. This is a real tarayves. And when you have a real tarayves, now can I even do what I just said a second ago? No. Can I even go and not necessarily. Maybe, maybe. Really, what should he do? What should he do lechatchila? You should flip over the whole tarayves. You shouldn't take them off. You should keep it within the tarayves. Let's go back to our grass. It's only bayar once I take it out of the tarayves. If I don't take it out of the tarayves, it's not going to be bayar. So really, what should I do is I shouldn't start. Okay, I need to find my chumash. Okay, let's undo the whole tarayves. Move all the coats off. Oh, I found the one I want. No, who said you're allowed to do that? You just did bayar. Really, what you should do is you should take the whole pile and you should try to look underneath or flip it over. Yeah, within the rummaging is the word I like to use. Rummaging within the tarayves. That l'chayr is what you should do because there it is more extreme. Whereas when it's a large distinct pile, that is this heter of the Biur Halacha. And and this, by the way, just going full circle, this is the reason why when you come to your cutlery, it's just bizarre to suggest that I have a pile of cutlery and it's not called a tarayves. Like, what is a tarayves then? If someone's going to suggest, a pile of svarim like I just had, you have 20 svarim all intermingled on top of each other. Why is that any different than a pile of rocks and candies in a bowl? Just one's smaller, one's bigger, so therefore it makes it, no. It's not more discerned, it's not more separate, it's a mixture. Why? Because it is. It's one terribly definitive mixture. And we'll just end that lemaisa. But if you never touch the tarayves, which is what we spoke about the kishka yesterday, just to point it out, and Rav Simcha Bunim was giving a similar example. He wasn't talking about kishka; he was talking about I don't remember what. If you never touch the tarayves, then you never did bayr. You never did bayr. For example, if you have a big piece of meat and it's a fat on one side of it. So if I cut the meat in half, I didn't now take off. I didn't do anything because now I have meat, and I still have meat. The fat. You can do whatever you want. You didn't do bayr. You didn't do anything. Now, as you get closer, obviously it gets scarier. How much do you have to leave on? Okay, that's going to be the $1 million question. That goes back to the Chazon Ish. That goes back to by the way, this is actually how Rafal fears ice. I just didn't read the pile. He says that this only applies to large distinct items, but if you have a pile of washing, I don't know how that's English, but he's English. Pile of different, right, pile of different thin garments such as shirts, blouses, a pile of booklets, letters, photographs, anything similar. And a true mix is a true mixer, since each item is obscured by the presence of many items that lie together. It's hence it's subject to all lachas of bayer, and there's no heter at all. And I think So that is the end to Sif Dalid. And when it comes to peeler, we're not going to talk about it, but it's the Igleital is Makel. Shem Zalman is Makel on edible peels. He's Machem on non-edible peels. What the lumdus there is, figure it out. But to be Machmir on a peeler in Gansin, L'chayr is Shver. No, Igleital is Makel in Gansin. Igleital just says it's not a clean Yuchel Bayr. If I'm Ramesha. Oh, I just want to tell you one. I'll explain to you this one word of lumdus, how they explain Ramesha. Ramesha, they quote in the English Sefer, it's not Bayer. It's not Bayer. There's a different tshuva of Ramesha when he talks about a knife. The answer is, when I explained that meat example the first day, that l'chayr is the answer. Just to say, how everyone wants to know, okay, Shkayach Yitami Igleital says a peeler is not a Klim Yuchad. Why isn't it? Like, what can you explain to me in English? How is that not a Bayer? It is a utensil that is utilized for Bayer. Why is it not? So the answer is, it's doing the same thing as a knife. That's the answer. But even to go one step even deeper, when I peel off the fruit, the act of peeling is not an act of bayer. For example, if I take the peeler and I go like this, one clean pass and out, and I leave the peel on top of the apple, did I do anything? But that they still to that shuva of Ramesha's knife. That's the chayr, the same landis. Is that, did I do anything? I didn't do an act of bayer. I cut the peel, but it's still lying on top of the fruit. Where is the act of bayer? At the moment, like we go back to our meat example, right? The cutting inside the realm, it's the flick. It's the flick. So it happens to be a peeler is designed to make the flick easier. And it's designed that if you're not thinking, you just go like this, it's going to almost pull off the peel with you. But it's doing the same action as a knife. It's not doing anything different. It's making it more user-friendly. And that's the reason why. Right. Said everyone has to talk to their grandmother or any elder or any bubby or wife, sister, any female, and they'll show you. Everyone has someone who knows how to use a knife better than a peeler. And that's all the stories they say with Ramesha and whatever it is. But that's the l'chayra lumdis. And by the way, just to end, going back to the meat and the kishka, we have to zoom in and realize that the moment of connection is the point of bayer. Meaning, if I have a half an apple with peel on it, okay? So if I go and I cut out an inch of apple and leave over 3 inches of apple with a peel, did I do anything? No. The juncture between the peel and the fruit is the juncture that there could be a bayer. Why? That's where there's a tarevis. The rest of it is not a tarevis. Why is it not a tarevis? It just isn't. It's fruit. Again, I have a massive piece of meat. At the end is a little piece of fat. So this whole first long piece of meat is not part of a tarevis. Why not? Because it isn't. There's no tarevis. It's just meat. Now, if I take it off and now I leave over meat and fat, now that is a tarevis. Now, how do I deal with that? That's our shayla. So when you come to a peeler, so it's the act of removing the peel from the fruit. That juncture, that is where it is a tarevis. So that's why it would be a shayla. But Ramesha L'chayr is learning, and the Gdital and others, and Shlom Zalman on an edible peel, that because all you're doing is making it more user-friendly, but not really doing anything else, therefore, it would be mutter. Just one thing to keep in mind, and I actually never realized this, and I didn't finish this out of safe. The Mishnah Brura seemingly is learning that what's called a kli bayer. How would he translate it for the Mishnah Brura? Mishnah Brura talks about taking the smetna with a spoon off of the milk. I don't know what smetna is, but yeah, the top garbage. Mishnah Brura sounds like using a regular spoon, right? No, I'm getting looks. We didn't get there yet? Oh, it's later than Mishnah Brura? I thought it was quoted once in the beginning, once it ends. Okay, even better. Fine. I thought.
We'll get there.
Okay, good. So just keep in mind that this Mishnah Brura is here. Let me see. Where's the Mishnah Brura? Mishnah Brura is Nun Ches. Shartzia Nun Ches. We didn't get there yet. You're right. You are correct. I apologize. Okay, Seder. I'll end.